Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kyra and I am here today to do the tag Tarot to the Extremes. This tag was created by Marlene Theresa and I am a bit slow to getting this tag up and out, but that's okay. I will tag her her original video of this tag is linked below in the description box, so you can go and check that out there. And basically what this tag is, if you haven't seen it yet, is people just comparing opposites in their collection. And she talked about how this was after her Gemini heart, and Geminis are very big about opposites. So are Libras, because Libra's all about balancing, and I have both my Mars in Gemini and I have my Moon in Libra. So I am here for this. And without further ado, we're gonna dive in. And the first set is a minimalist deck versus a maximalist deck. And my minimalist deck is actually one I haven't showed that I have on this channel yet, and or any channel. I only have this one, and that's my Little Odd Tarot. This is, I'm gonna zoom in a bit. There, that's quite nice. Look at that. Oh, so good. This is clearly, I almost, because I haven't used this yet, I almost forgot that I had it. And I had picked another minimalist deck, and then I was like, wait a minute. This is black and white, which to me really adds to the minimalist feature, because it is minimalist images, like it's minimal on the color side. Also, there's a lot of open space in the pictures, which adds to that vibe as well. I don't have any pure pip style decks. Okay, technically I have a pippier deck, but it's on its way out. But like, look at this. There's very little going on in the images. They're great. And let me be clear here. These are all my opinions. Not everyone would look at the same things and say the same things, especially when we get to the overrated and underrated. Listen. This is to me, okay? So please keep loving the decks you love and don't come for me if you disagree. But these images are they're minimal. There's very little extra detail. And the color is minimal. It's just very clean, and it's very easy to see all the details. There's no like missing details when you look at these. There's no, or in my opinion, it's much less likely to, and this is the Kickstarter version. There's no, this is not the type of deck that is overloaded with so many symbols that every time you come to it, you could be seeing something new. Which to me makes very maximalist. So, and that to me means that this is the opposite. It's very, very minimal. So that is the Little Odd Tarot, written by Ashton Maxwell, illustrated by Michelle Castro. It's adorable. And that is the minimalist deck that I have chosen. Wait, don't put it away. I'm going to compare the two. Silly me. So that's the minimalist deck I've chosen. I'm going to put that aside for a minute. And my maximalist deck is my Bonfire Tarot. This image, this deck is full of color. It is full of details. It is full of symbols. I have quite a few decks on the more maximalist side. I am a bit of a maximalist. Well, at least I lean more maximalist than minimalist. In my aesthetics, in my just in my life in general. Like, look here. This is a good, even on her face, there's more people. If that does not make a deck maximalist, I do not know what does. But really, I have quite a few decks that are full of details. And what sets this one apart as a maximalist deck versus just a full image deck is that this can be overwhelming. It can be, like, I find it intimidating to learn, to get to know. I look at it and there's so many symbols, and this is opposite to my Little Odd Tarot. This is one of those decks that every single time you look at it, you might see something new that you didn't notice before, and you're like, oh my gosh. So it's like, to me, the maximalist quality is like the quality that you're constantly discovering things in the art that you didn't know were there. And that's what makes this my maximalist deck. And just to show them side by side, this, and to really showcase how opposite they are, this is going to be funny. Look at that. They are so opposite. It's actually a bit comical. They are, this one is black and white. This one is completely colorful. This one, again, you can see even this might be one of the more busy cards of this deck, but look at that difference. We looked at these. I thought that was the Seven of Cups, so I was going to direct compare. These two decks are so opposite, it's not even funny. And in my opinion, they really, 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 really do well at showcasing the minimalist versus the maximalist. That gets hard to say the more you say it, maximalist vibe. So that's The Little Odd Tarot by Ashton Maxwell, illustrated by Michelle Castro. And my Bonefire Tarot, where'd the bag go? Oh. And this is by, oh gosh, what's their name? Gabby Angus West. Sorry if I got really loud there when I said Gabby Angus West. So that's that. The next one is daytime versus nighttime. And this is a little funny. So, for my daytime deck, I have my Tarot of Transformation, which I recently took out of hiding. I took this deck out of hiding. Okay, so first, the reason I picked it as a daytime deck is if you look, almost every image has a sun in it, shining brightly. And that's daytime, at least in my part of the world. That's how I associate daytime. This one even looks like the day. But I actually recently rescued this deck out of like my art cabinet. I'm in love with this art so much. But because the very papery cardstock, I got nervous to use it. I had this deck, it got destroyed. I was able to get my hands on a second copy without it costing me a bunch to repurchase, which was amazing. And I haven't actually used it because I think I'm just so afraid I will hurt it. This is probably one of the darkest cards, but still, there is a light. And so I had it put away in my, like, in a drawer to do art with, but I really just want to work with it. Anyways, I picked this one as my daytime deck. It is bright. All the colors are bright. The borders are bright. And to me, that says daytime. And then the factor is that in all of them, like I said, there's a sun in almost every single image. This, night sky, but it's also daytime. So the vast majority of these images are literally shown in the daytime. And even when it's not, it doesn't give me that kind of mysterious, romantic nighttime vibes, which is how I feel. When the moon is out in the nighttime, I feel very slow and sexy and sensual. In other words, this card is what kind of, like, this fabric is reminded me of this card. This doesn't feel like slow and sensual and all of that to me. This feels like, at the very least, this feels like waking up in the morning. It just does not feel like nighttime. So this is my daytime deck, the Tarot of Transformation. And for my nighttime deck, okay, I went a bit on the nose, but, like, I couldn't resist. I created this box. This is my Tarot of Vampires. Put my vampire tears aside. They're vampires. Of course this is my nighttime deck. How could I possibly resist having the Tarot of Vampires as my nighttime deck? Because they're vampires, they only go out at night. And I started to notice too, there's also, unlike opposite of the other one, this one has a lot of moons in the background. But, like, I was looking at my decks, and my collection is as yet not as extensive as a lot of folks. I have around the 50 mark. I have around 50 decks, including Oracle. And quite a few of those are Oracle. So my choice, what I was able to select from, is not as extensive as some others. So I was sitting there and I was like, nighttime, I don't know. I don't recall any decks being very dark, like physically dark, because yes, I am that literal with the daytime, nighttime thing. And then I was like, wait a minute. I have the Tarot of Vampires. Vampires are literally creatures of the night. Like, here's one that's got daylight and he's running away from it. So I had to. I simply had to use this. And then together, side by side. Ooh, dear. Hold on, let me fix that light. There, that's better. They are well opposite. This one uses darker coloring, and this one does give me that more nighttime feel than this one does. They do feel very, very, very opposite to me in the feeling. And so I think I'm pretty happy with my choice of my Tarot of Transformation as my daytime card and my Tarot of Vampires as my nighttime card. See, look, there's nighttime out the window. Ta-da! So, there you go. So that was my Tarot of Transformation. Let me put away my Tarot of Vampires first. My Tarot of Vampires by Ian Daniels, I believe it is. I know it's Daniels. Let me... Ian. Yep, I was correct. Ian Daniels. And my Tarot of Transformation by Willow Arlena. Next up, we have the best shuffle versus the worst shuffle. This is what I own currently. I reserve the right to change my mind. And my best shuffle is this little guy. And this bag is not permanent. I need to get a bag for it, and I haven't got one yet. This is my Pocket Dreams of Gaia. This is Blue Angel, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly this time, and this is by Raven Falon. This cardstock is amazing. It is matte, it is smooth, it's not sticky. It is an adorable little size, and it is not too thick. This is like some of the most perfect cardstock in my opinion, and it wears well. The more you shuffle it, the softer and like smushier it gets. This deck helps me to understand what people say when they say a deck is like smooshy. And see, this is another deck that is very maximal, but it still doesn't feel quite maximalist. But this is the deck I reach for when I want to shuffle. When I want just a good feeling shuffle, this is what I reach for. And since we're talking about shuffles, I feel like it's only appropriate for me to show you. It's just... Whoop, I pushed them too close that time. Hold on. It's just a really good shuffle. It makes a really nice sound. It feels really good. When I shuffle, I can feel the breeze it creates on my hands. And it's fabulous. Comes together nicely. It's just, oh, such a good shuffle. And I love this deck. I love working with it. I use this deck to work with a guide. Like, it's just the best. And it overhands really well too. It's just a really, really, really nice shuffle. So there's that one. Just a few more pictures in case, but this one is pretty well shown. Or at least it was very, very popular. It's really good. And the guidebook, by the way, for this is just stellar. So that's my best shuffle. And my worst shuffle. Admittedly, this was hard because I have a few decks that don't have the best shuffle. I ended up going with my Tarot of the She. Now I love this deck, and it's gotten way better. But this cardstock, it's glossy, it sticks. It doesn't stick as much, but like, so to me, cardstock in the shuffle isn't as much of a deal breaker to me as it might be for others. So I feel like I had a few decks I could have chosen here. I almost picked the Boo Tarot just because I'm so afraid to shuffle that it'll just like break. And I'm rough on things. I've bent a card from my Shimmering Veil Tarot. I've bent cards in my, what's it called? Shadowscapes. The reason I went with the Tarot of the She is because although I could have gone with the archetypes, oh well. The Wild Unknown Archetypes gets an honorable mention. That cardstock is hideous, and it's round, so it's really hard to shuffle. I think the reason I went with this is because I reach for it more than that, so I guess I notice it more often than that. But this one, the cardstock is like opposite. Like it's not super thick, and there's way worse cardstock, but it just doesn't shuffle nice. My Starseeker Tarot has a very rose petal finish, which it clumps, but I still like the shuffle of that better than this because that one, while it clumps and I get frustrated, it still feels really nice in my hands while I'm shuffling it. But this, I don't like the shuffle. It every single time like, I have to manually separate them more. If I try and bridge it, sometimes it like just doesn't bridge. Every time it does that, it doesn't go together properly. So shuffling this is a lot more effort than shuffling my Dreams of Gaia. And it's interesting because now that I see them side by side, it's very much like the cardstock is opposite. And this was even worse when I got it. So, I mean, I have, like I said, I have quite a few. I could have picked the Boo Tarot for this. I could have picked the Wild Unknown Archetypes Oracle. I could have picked, there's a few I could have picked in this category. But basically what I went for is like one that I know I get excited to shuffle, and that's the Dreams of Gaia Tarot. I literally take this one out so I can shuffle it. And then one that when I take out to read, I think, oh, the shuffle. And that's how I picked the Tarot of the She. Wow, look at this. That's cool. Is because, like, I don't get excited to shuffle this. In fact, when I think of it, I think, oh, but I have to be careful how I work with it. Which also, when we're talking shuffling, let me just say, I love the linen cardstock decks. Those things are damn hard to shuffle because they're so beautifully slippery. When you get it, oh, it's amazing. Which is probably why I didn't pick a linen one here, because I'm a klutz. I drop my linen decks all the time. So this one, I like that it's just a little bit grippier. And that's my best versus worst shuffle. Best shuffle being my Dreams of Gaia Tarot by Raven Falan, which I'm just going to tuck in this bag. It's a little bit finicky because it's a very good fit. I really need to get a nicer bag for it. And the worst shuffle being my Tarot of the She by Emily Carding, which, by the way, not Emily Carding's fault. This is a Schiffer Red Feather, who is kind of notorious for their awful cardstock. Like, the Bonfire is the same kind of cardstock, and it's also Schiffer. So is the Marielle. I've heard this cardstock talked about a lot. Anywho, next up we have a comforting deck versus a confronting deck. And for my comforting deck, I have my Gentle Tarot Linen Edition, actually. So, just put these, let me just quickly, since we were just talking about cardstock, let me take a moment to just show you, like, linen is super, like, it's slippery. It's just beautiful and slippy and slidey cardstock. It's so wonderful to shuffle, but it is also very slippery. And I just like the Dreams of Gaia that it has just a little more grip. Anyways, back to the deck. This is my comforting deck. So this is what I picked for my comforting deck, and this was really obvious. Although, funny story, I almost picked the Gentle Tarot, and this is by Maritza Rice Aparicio Tovar. I'm so sorry, Mari, if I mispronounced your name and you happen to see this. I love your work. I did Kickstarter the tin and the full guidebook. It's on its way to me right now as I'm filming. I'm so excited. But then I got impatient and I decided to get it. And I'm just being fully real. I'm considering getting the full size because I love this deck so much. This is one of these decks that feels like my spirituality to me. Anyways, the funny thing was, when I was looking at this tag, I was kind of bouncing all over the place, making my selections, picking the ones that made sense. And I picked this one initially for light work and the one it's with for shadow work. And I literally was like, well, this one is like comforting and healing and the other one's confronting. And then I realized there was a comforting versus confronting category. Although I realize now that it's supposed to be confronting versus comforting. I'm gonna keep going, but just for the record, other people might have done it in the opposite order, where it's a confronting deck versus a comforting deck. So clearly I think of this as comforting. I'm still very much getting to know it. And I can't wait to have the full beautiful color guidebook to do so. If you'd be interested in seeing first impressions of that Kickstarter, let me know in the comments down below. Or if by chance I've received it and done that video and put it out before you see this, which I think is unlikely, I will link it up above in the cards. This deck is so, like, the Gentle Tarot could not be a more perfect name. It is so soft and gentle, and the colors are gentle. And I did also back the Songs of the Grandmothers Oracle, which I'm extremely excited for as well, which is by the same artist, Mari, but the like deck creator is Kara, I believe, who did the Prairie Majesty Oracle. That much I know for sure. I'm sorry if it's Kara versus Kara, I don't know. And I will try to link all these decks in the description box. I'm going to work on getting better at doing my description boxes for you all. This deck, the thing is, I don't feel like this deck wouldn't confront me. I just feel like I wouldn't reach for it thinking I need to be confronted. If I needed to be confronted, I would pick the other deck in this grouping. If I wanted to be comforted, this deck is what I might go for, because even though it may be confronting, I may end up with confronting messages. The overall energy of this deck is so comforting. Oh, I just realized I didn't even pick a Lovers. I just shuffled them both in. I would pick this one instead of the Butterflies, actually, though. It's like, even this is the Tower, and I still feel comforted looking at that image. So the Gentle Tarot, hands down, nope, keep it out for a minute, is my comforting deck. My confronting deck is my Shimmering Veil Tarot. I would 100% reach for this deck if I needed to be confronted. Funny story, I also have left both Queen of Wands in here. Okay, so I have no clue what I was saying or where I was, because as I was filming earlier, the knock on the door came, and it was the people coming to fix my kitchen sink, because our kitchen sink fell a few days ago. So I'm sorry, this is going to be a weird cut. Anyways, I do know that this is what I picked for my confronting deck. And it's just, this deck, I do find it to be comforting sometimes, but it just, I don't pick this up for light messages. And part of the comfort factor is a deck that I feel like I can turn to when I'm having a really hard time and I just need something a bit softer, a bit lighter, a bit gentler, but will still give me reality, like the Gentle Tarot. This is something, this is deep. This is, it's not necessarily dark, but it's not light. It is deep, it is evocative, it is emotional. This deck brings, its artwork evokes, evocative is really a great word for it. Like, look at this card. This is a very, very evocative deck. And this deck will call me on my shit, and I've used it, and I've proven it. It will call me directly on my shit. It will tell me things even if I don't necessarily want to. It's confronting in the best possible way. There's that other Queen of Wands. And then side by side with the comforting with its comforting counterpart, the art style is different. The color palette is different. This is moodier. There's a lot more like grays and moody. I like the word moody. There's a lot more moody tones in this deck. Whereas this one, the art style is very different. Even the cardstock contributes to it contributes to the experience. This is literally softer and this is harder. This Queen of Swords is a great example of very beautiful and yet very confronting energy. I get so much out of both of these decks and have already gotten so much, even in the short time I've had them. So that's the Gentle Tarot by Mari in the Sky. She's known on, as they are known on Instagram. And fabulous. And the Shimmering Tarot by Scylla Conway. Such a good deck. Oh God, I'm so in love with this deck. So that's my comforting and confronting. Okay, next up we have the everyday and the every so often. And this one was really easy. There was multiple things I could have done. What I did was I picked a deck that I could use every single day, and then I picked a deck that I only use every so often. My everyday deck is the This Might Hurt Tarot. Now, I'm not currently using this every single day, but I have. I've had this deck over a year. I'm just going to shuffle it, apparently. And there have been many times when I would use this deck every single day. And it never gets old. I can use it for anything. This is my #1 workhorse deck. It always gives clear messages. I can use it for any client. I can use it for any reading, any situation. I can use it for big spreads. I can use it for single card pulls. The options and the versatility of this deck is endless. And that, to me, is really what this everyday versus every so often comes down to, is versatility versus specificity. This is a very versatile deck. And it can do anything. I suddenly have the song "Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better" stuck in my head. It can just do anything. Any kind of reading I want, I can pick up this deck and I can play with it, and I know I'm going to have a good time. I can pick it up and use it every single day and not get sick of it. It is such a good reader. That's the everyday nope, sorry, that's the This Might Hurt Tarot. And then my every so often, or my more specific deck, is my Witch's Wisdom Tarot. Now, I actually have more decks that are every so often decks versus everyday decks, because I really like to use my tarot for specific things. I like to use certain tarot decks for certain jobs. This one gives me a very specific vibe. This one gives me my paganism, my spirituality vibe in a deck. The images are a lot more specific. It's not necessarily a deck that's going to be everybody's cup of tea. And it was created by someone with a similar spirituality and witchcraft practice to me, in that, like, they use the Wheel of the Year. And that is what I use this deck for. I use this deck for, in conjunction with the Seasons of the Witch Oracle decks, to do my Wheel of the Year readings. Which, stay tuned, you are going to see a video later this month about how I do Wheel of the Year readings. So hit subscribe and stay tuned for that. At least I'm pretty sure this one's coming out first. Yes, this video you'll see before, and then in about just under 2 weeks, I will have my my how I do Wheel of the Year readings video. So this is the Witch's Wisdom Tarot by Phyllis Curott, and this is my deck for every so often. Once a month at most, basically, is when I use it. And then the side-by-side here, they are just so very different. This one very much goes its own way. This one sticks a lot more to the classic meanings and depictions. They are both stunning decks. And actually I tried to use this as a daily card, but you see, another thing that happens with this is a very, still so far in my practice, this is a guidebook dependent deck, which I am fine with. I'm fine with using this deck with the guidebook. I'm very excited that I'm going to be, at the time I'm filming this, I'm going to be starting very soon Lisa's Intuitive Tarot course, which she just launched. I will link the video of her announcing that up above in the cards, and if you still get it through September, it's on sale, and Lisa does amazing work. I feel like once I've done that course, then this deck will open up a bit more for me. And I've just been spending a lot of time thinking about what it is that gets me into that intuitive headspace. But when it comes to day-to-day pulls, this is not what I reach for, but something like this is. And so that's my everyday deck, the This Might Hurt Tarot by Isabella Rotman. I was looking in the box because I haven't memorized them. And the Witch's Wisdom Tarot by Phyllis Curott. Okay, next up, you can't get, well, okay, you can get mad. You're allowed to feel whatever you feel, but don't come for me, okay? It is not my fault. The next one is the underrated versus overrated, or the overrated versus underrated deck. And I sat there and I thought, how would I pick my underrated? And I was watching Marlene's video. What I ended up going with is a deck that, to me, has ended up being overrated. It didn't work the way I wanted it to. And everyone, it feels like everyone sings its praises, and it's a beautiful deck. And so basically it just ended up being a bit of a letdown for me personally. Don't yell at me. Okay, so you promise you're not going to yell at me. Maybe exclaim, sure. Yell, no. Promise? Okay, the underrated deck I picked, oh, y'all are gonna hate me. I picked my Playful Heart Tarot. This was hard to pick. And like I said, I picked it because for me, this deck ended up being really a bit of a letdown. And I mean, that happens. It is such a beautiful deck. Do I think this deck is underrated overall? No. Do I think this deck works well for lots of people? Absolutely. This deck gets touted as a really great inner child deck. And I thought it was an inner child deck for me. And I haven't really used it. So in my collection, this deck ended up being the overrated one. It's like quality-wise, it's amazing. Artwork-wise, amazing. It was kind of like the Soul Cards 1 and 2. Like, I was so sure I would get this, and I would have such an experience, and I would become so good, and I would do inner child work, and I just haven't currently gotten anything from this deck. So I think, in my opinion, this is a deck that is overrated when it gets spoken about as like a, and maybe this is just my brain, but like I would hear people talk about this and I'd be like, if I'm gonna get an inner child deck, it's gonna be this one singular inner child deck, and I'm not gonna use any others. So maybe this is a result of just my brain. I love this deck, and I'm so sad that it hasn't worked for me. I just feel like it let me down, and so that left me, or I feel let down because my expectations were so high because it's talked about so much, and so that alone, this is amazing. Kitten Chops, if you're watching this, please don't get me wrong. I love this deck. It's gorgeous. It just might not be for me. And so it feels like a letdown, and it feels then like, to me, this deck was not worth the hype, therefore it's overrated. I'm sorry. And the underrated deck, one I don't think gets talked about enough, is the Ellis Tarot. The Ellis Deck Tarot. This is the 5th edition. I mean, okay, this deck, the production quality is great. I'm trying to get it without glare. This deck is wonderful. This deck is just, I don't even know what to say about this deck. This is my favorite Queen of Wands ever. This deck is just it. It's it. It has my favorite rods. It has mostly my favorite swords. It has some, like, this is a artwork. It is a favorite. I'm still getting to know it and learning how to work with it, but it is so perfect, like, for me at least. And people don't talk about this deck a lot. I don't see a lot of videos. The only person I've seen on YouTube that has mentioned this is Lisa. Now, is that possibly the algorithm and stuff? Oh yeah, for sure. I actually don't watch a ton of like tarot YouTube. I'm watching more now, but I watch a varied content. But this deck, it's always surprising to me when I do see tarot videos and people don't mention this. And I'm like, but why? I don't understand. And so there they are, side by side. Sorry about the glare. They even feel their artwork is not... I feel like this is a more grown-up version of this artwork. In the fact, like, this is with very youthful vibes, and there's nothing wrong with that. And this is more quiet, or not quiet. This is more mature vibes, more grown vibes, and that's totally okay. I do love this Empress card though. This part was really hard, and Marlena, I tell you, if you're watching this, I was like, when I saw the overrated and underrated, I was like, oh my god, everyone's gonna hate me for this. Oh man. But for me, in my collection, how I expected these to work, how I was hoping to use them, I am extremely sad to say that the Playful Heart Tarot has ended up being overrated for me personally. I don't know if I've given up on it yet, but it has been overrated for me personally. Pause to put it in the bag. And the Ellis deck tarot is way underrated. So yeah, I'm gonna move on now because I'm nervous. And that brings us to our last one, which is light work versus shadow work. For my light work deck, I have my Star Seeker Tarot. This deck, okay. Now, the idea of light work is a bit strange. This deck, in my opinion, light work is about kind of trying to become the best versions of ourselves. I don't really always like the term light work versus shadow work, specifically the light work side, because there is a lot of, in some circles you catch that are about light work or body positivity. There's some overlap of people who villainize and demonize the shadow, which I talked about before. And I really don't like that. There's a lot of toxic positivity in certain aspects. So I don't really like the term light work because there's a lot of connotations around like the light being good and shadow and the dark being bad. And I'm not here for that. Neither is good or bad, both are amazing, kind of a thing. So this was a bit hard, but I ended up going with my Star Seeker just because this deck, it knows exactly who I am at my core. It knows me when I am in my most balanced, most true sense of self. It opens to me. It opens my intuition. This deck allows me to just be me. And to me, that's the light work, is when I'm just being me. And this deck doesn't shy away even when I go shadowy. It is there for me with love and support and understanding. It is there for me with intuitive knowledge. And that's kind of what I was thinking about when I picked this as my light work deck. And my shadow work deck, I had to go with, and I had several things I could have gone with, because again, apparently there's just certain types of work I really like doing, and shadow work is one of them. But I had to go with my Goliath Tarot. This, oh my God, this Queen of Wands. This deck, both of these decks hit me right smack in the intuition, where I swear I can feel them start to whisper to me. And this deck is extremely shadowed. It is, in my opinion, it seems like it's meant to be shadowed. And it's meant to be a shadow work deck. And the best part about it is that it shows all the beauty that is found in the darkness. And that is the truth. Like, dark and light define each other. If dark didn't exist, we wouldn't understand light. Light creates the shadow. Like, literally, it is light that creates the shadow. So, shadow work and light work are so intrinsic and so essential to go together and to be balanced. And this one, it's highly intuitive, just like the Starseeker Tarot, but it is dark, and it allows itself to be dark without shying away from it because of the discomfort that the darkness causes. And I've said in a previous video that when I use this deck, which I haven't used it in a while, I only use it, I don't pull a lot of cards from it. This is like a one card draw. When I've used it in the past, it would be when I'm having a really bad day. I'll pull this deck, I'll pull a card, and I'll read the guidebook, and it kind of brings me back to myself. It's like a guide through the shadow. And so that is what I have picked this Goliath for. And then side by side, they are stunning opposites. And like I said, they have certain things in common. They both, I feel like, just speak to me in ways other things don't. They feel extremely unique. They feel irreplaceable. This one, I don't use it, but as soon as I pull it out and I look at it, I think I don't think I could ever let this go. I think I just need to learn to use it. But see, like this is a shadowy image. I just think they speak for themselves to me, in that they're kind of an obvious choice of if I want something to bring me back to that more shining, light part of myself, I would pick the Starseeker Tarot. And if I want something to allow me to accept and love and learn to move through the dark and mysterious, sexy part of myself, I pick the Goliath. And I mean, that's really all there is to it. It comes down to the fact that this is what I would pick. The Starseeker Tarot for quote-unquote light work by Nikki Ferreira, and the Goliath Tarot for shadow work. And the Goliath Tarot is by, hold on, they seem to just go by Goliath. So yeah, that's the Goliath Tarot. And that's it. And that's it. We did it. We went through 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 decks in my collection and talked about them and how I believe they're opposites and yada, yada, yada. This was so much fun. A little hectic because of the plumbing interruption, but such a good time. Such an amazing take. Thank you, Marlena. And that is where I'm going to leave you. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up to let me know if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell notification so you can come on back, out of breath, nice and easily, and hang out with us here. If you would like to check out the join button beside the subscribe button, you can now join my channel membership. I have several tiers and lots of extra content available for you to check out and see what you might enjoy joining us for. In the description box below, you can see my website where you can book a reading with me. I'm a professional tarot reader and astrologer, and I combine the two for very specialty personalized readings. You can check that out. There's my email if you need to contact me. And yeah, let me know in the comments down below, have you done this video, or are you going to do this video? Did you disagree with me about any of my choices? What would you choose? I'd love to chat more about it. And for now, I'll let you go here, and I will see you again soon. Lots of love. Bye.